It doesn't require that in any way. So, and I think this is what is required
Minister,
change from our citizens.
Let me come in here. You make it sound so easy, but you have put a deadline of a couple. It was initially 2 weeks, and it's now been extended by 6 weeks. How do you expect the large number of Nigerians who are unregistered not to gather with the deadline that you have put?
Thank you very much, my brother, for asking this question, but point of correction. The earlier deadline, it was quoted by many nationals wrongly without making reference to the initial one. What if you go online and check, you can Google it and see. It was announced since February 2020. And I think the first day that policy was announced in this country was on 4th February 2020. And it was transmitted to the Nigerian Communications Commission and NIMSI then. However, at that time, NIMS was not under our supervision. So it was announced that each and every citizen who owns a SIM card national identity number and submit same to the mobile network operators. Go online and sign. To be attached to each and every citizen. And we even say most probably around 3, which has been reviewed now to around 7 in number. Considering that beyond phone, we need data, we need artificial intelligence facilities. Operators, they failed to do that. They were only debating about why 3 SIMs, why not 4, why not 5? No, 3 is okay. We can even use 2. Why not 1? They were debating, but it was announced then that from February 2020 to December 2020, obtain your digital ID and submit to your operator. They couldn't comply, and it was announced. And what government needs to do is to announce the policy we did. While the parastatals, they are mandated to keep in touch with citizens as part of their strategy for implementation and the mobile network operators. If you Google, you will see. So saying that the deadline is 2 weeks, this is wrong. That 2 weeks was only to remind the citizens that the earlier directives of February to December was still valid. So you must comply. So this is what happened. But you can Google and see. It is there online,
for many people,
including electronic media.
Honorable Minister, for many people, meet up with this date. Does that not worry you as well?
Firstly, what I want to say to you here, if they lack any equipment, what they need to do is to officially notify the federal government. NIMSI Union has never written to the ministry, and the commission has never written to the ministry even once that we require this facility or this that we fail to produce. It has never happened. No single letter has come to the federal government from either NIMSI or from the union saying that we need this and these facilities. It has never come to my attention, number one. Number two, only 2 months ago,
have you carried out
today.
Have you carried out a tour of the facilities at the NIMSI offices to be sure that they have adequate equipment instead of waiting for them? Because you have set a deadline and you expect that NIMSI would meet with that deadline.
Yeah, the deadline was announced in February 2020, and the initial time is February 2020, and the closing or the end of the deadline is December 2020. Within 10 months, I said to you, nobody has ever complained to us in any way that we needed this facility. And I granted an audience to the union 2 months ago in my office, where we spent more than an hour. They complained to me about their salary, and I even told them that even before you came here to complain about the salary, I personally wrote a letter to Minister of Finance and other institutions to see how we can review your remunerations. So because of this, you come here only to encourage me to redouble my effort. But even before coming here, I have already written a letter officially in which the Minister of Finance has endorsed the letter.
Honorable Minister, I was very specific. I wanted to find out from you if you had taken your time to visit the offices of NIMSI or had interactions with them to confirm that they had the facilities to carry and equipment to carry out this exercise. I'll also remind you that as at February 2020, NIMSI did say that it had about 1,000 centers to carry out this registration process. And that was when the issue of JAMB was coming on. Do you think that NIMSI has the facilities and equipment now to register as many Nigerians as are required?
Thank you very much. Firstly, you asked me whether I had visited NIMSI or not. I can tell you within 1 week that NIMSI was transferred to our Ministry for Supervision, I visited NIMSI and I visited all their infrastructure in the headquarters, and I engaged the entire management of NIMSI for over 2 hours about all their complaints. Secondly, I asked NIMSI to conduct an assessment of all their facilities and their gaps and what they need immediately. They sent a report to me at that time that what they needed was more of a world-class data center so that they can have multiple data centers as backup. That has been approved by the federal government of Nigeria. A memo was presented before the Federal Executive Council, and it was approved.
Let's take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Please stay with us.
Thank you.
Do you know that women are marginalized in the politics of Nigeria? Do you know that current percentages of female representation in the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is 6.42% and in the House of Representatives 3.6%? Do you know that Nigeria's political system and culture inhibits the participation of almost 50% of Nigeria's 200 million people that women represent? Do you know that you can join forces with stakeholders, women's groups, and other progressive interests to improve and increase the lead of women's participation in Nigeria? Join the clamor for revisions to current laws, practices, and culture that inhibits the full participation of women in decision-making in Nigeria.
This message is brought to you by Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAG, with support from the European Union.
The following measures are crucial in the fight against COVID-19. Maintain 2 meters distance between yourself and anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Cover your mouth and nose with your bent elbow or tissue when you cough or sneeze. Then dispose of the used tissue immediately. Do not touch your nose, mouth, or eyes. Remember, avoid physical contact with people. Simply greet with a wave, a nod, or a bow. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku.
Welcome back to Politics Today. I'm speaking with the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Dr. Ali Isa Pantami, on the National Identification Number registration process, which is ongoing. Honorable Minister, let me ask you this. You've seen the crowds at NIMSI offices nationwide and calls for readjustment or reconsiderations. Why has the ministry remained adamant on the NIN registration despite worries about COVID-19 infections? And I also remind you that the PTF has hinted on a possible lockdown considering the increased rate of infections in the country.
Firstly, as the interviewer, before I answer your question, I would also ask you a question. What is the position of obtaining national identity number based on Nigerian law? What is
I don't
the
understand
position?
the question, Honorable Minister, but I think that it's very important that you respond to my question on the COVID-19 pandemic and the challenges which Nigerians are facing, considering that we are in a pandemic.
Each and every question you ask, I have an answer, but I want you to answer the question first. What is the position of obtaining national identity number based on the Nigerian law?
I think you should tell us that, because there have been some rhetorics in the public space as to this, and some have questions if this is actually a digital process that you've taken us through, if Nigeria is actually heading in a digital direction.
So if you don't know, go to NIMSI Act 2007, the law establishing NIMSI, since you remain silent and you couldn't answer my question. If you look at Section 18, the law that was approved 13 years ago said that from the time the law was approved and the commission was established, each and every citizen was given only 60 days, as long as he is up to 18 years of age, to go to any NIMS and obtain his own national identity number. From that time to date, how many years? Why people fail to comply with the law for more than 10 years that they must go and obtain? And if at least a child is born, he was given only 60 days for his father to go and obtain that registration for him. This is what the Nigerian law says. Secondly, for you to say,
I think the people who just a second, I think the people who posed that law did not consider a pandemic. Honorable Minister, we are in a pandemic, and I don't want to believe that you have ignored the calls.
If you are ignorance of the law, is not an excuse to you or to me. What I'm saying, this pandemic started only in around January, February, in Nigeria around March, more than 9 months ago. Why we failed to comply with the law for more than 10 years, it is only now you are talking. Secondly, for you to say that ministry is adamant of that, this is the highest level of injustice. Why? I mentioned to you, look at the statement of 15 December 2020, signed by NCC and NIMSI. They said each and every citizen going for the registration must comply with federal government directives, must comply with presidential task force. It was clearly stated. And I went to the registration center last week. I was interviewed by the reporter of channels there. He met me there. Based on my interview with him, look at the video. All the guidelines of presidential task force were respected in NIMSI headquarters. I was there. We even interviewed Nigerians there. Do you have any complaint? They say no complaint. Did anybody ask you money? They say no. Are you allowed to enroll without respecting the COVID-19 protocols? They say no. All the people we interviewed there, the videos are available. Your reporter was there. I granted interview to him. Nobody complained.
Let me ask you a question, Honorable Minister. Let me ask you a question from what you have just said.
Institution that is not a law enforcement agency about the failure of citizens when they fail to comply. Go to our.
I'd like to ask you this very important question based on what you have said.
So just a second, Honorable Minister. What happens NCC or the federal government? But our own responsibility is to set the guidelines.
Just a second, Honorable Minister, just a second, please. What happens if a second lockdown is imposed? What happens to the registration process?
If the second lockdown is enforced, then the ministerial task force, including NIMSI, NCC, and all mobile network operators will come down and sit immediately and review, because the task force meets usually within 1 week. So when there is second lockdown, we are citizens. We must respect federal government directives, and we support the same government. So when there is any announcement, we come back to the drawing board immediately and review the process and see what we have achieved so far and what are the challenges ahead. So because of this, when that is announced, as federal government institution, we serve the same government, so we don't have any problem. Now it has not been announced.
I think many Nigerians.
These guidelines are to be respected, and we are respecting the guidelines, and we encourage our citizens to change their attitude. For example, let me tell you, few weeks ago, I traveled outside Nigeria to one country. I have not seen a single citizen of that country without face mask. Since they only announced it once, and everybody complied. But in Nigeria, it has been announced. Go to all places, you will see people without face masks. So what we need is attitudinal change. Laws cannot implement themselves. We as citizens, we must be law-abiding, and we must respect federal government laws and policies because they are for our own good.
Well, Honorable Minister, some Nigerians have complained about the non-digital nature of the registration process, which you had talked about earlier. Some have said that, can we clearly say that NIMC is doing a digital registration if people have to appear in person to do this registration process?
Thank you, my brother. Firstly, whoever complains, then for sure he has not been following the transformation we have been bringing. Firstly, we develop an app. Go online into Google, you will see it. That app, as long as you have your NIMC number, you only download it without visiting any office in Nigeria. You will be able to link up to 7 SIM numbers to only one. I have already downloaded the app and I launched the app and I have already linked some of my numbers here immediately. So this is the part
I'm
of
actually talking about getting the number itself. Getting the number itself.
I am coming. Listen, digitalization is an ongoing process. This is what I'm telling you. This application we have launched, it was only after we have done. By 3 days later, Saudi government announced a similar application, and the entire country was celebrating that Saudi government has digitalized digital ID. In that application we have already launched. If you go there, if you have your number, you can download your digital identity card. ID digitally. You don't need to print it anymore. You can link your numbers without visiting anybody. Secondly, when it comes to the process, there are issues that they are anywhere in the world. You must go and do them physically. This one, when it comes to NIMC, you download the form if you like virtually. You can complete the form virtually without visiting any office. And number 3, if you like, you can submit the form virtually. But there are things that require you physically, like your biometric. You cannot submit your biometric and to be verified and accredited without seeing you physically. We have our standard of capturing your image according to NIMC Act 2007 under section 14 and 15. You must go there so that it will tally with our own standard. So because of biometric and few other things, even if you submit your form online, you must come forward to present your biometric. And this is what requires you to do physically.
All right.
And the process, and I was in NIMC office, as you asked me, for supervision. I discovered that citizens are being registered. Each person takes around 3 to 5 minutes to complete his registration and go. As long as you have completed
I think our time is up at this
3 to 5
point.
minutes, you can go and go.
Honorable Minister, I'd like to say
because
thank you so much. There's so much to talk about as far as this NIN is concerned, but our time is up. I thank you for finding time to come speak with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. I most appreciate it. Take care, please. Bye.
Well, that's politics today. Thank you so much for your time and enjoy the rest of it. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.
This is a live Channels Television event.